Manufacturing is in trouble in the United States. Everyone knows that, right? Well, maybe not everyone, including some pretty smart people that have the ear of decision makers in Washington. Columbia University's Jagdish Bhagwati was quoted in The Economist recently, dismissing those who are talking about manufacturing so much as suffering from a, quote, manufacturing fetish, end quote. Kenneth Green, scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, wrote in the New York Times that, quote, as long as China is selling us the products we need, the location of manufacturing isn't really that critical for the economy. Well, these folks are not outliers. They're establishment thinkers. But too many pundits and experts are saying that we really don't need manufacturing. At ITIF, we differ. Since 2001, the United States has lost 42,400 factories, three-quarters of which employed at least 500 workers while in operation. We've lost 32% of our manufacturing jobs, and more our technical edge. Sorry, Dr. Bhagwati, we don't have a fetish. We have a problem. In a new report from ITIF, we spell out why the manufacturing decline that we are seeing today is different and more serious than what we've experienced up to now. This time the decline really is different. Forget all that silver lining talk about productivity gains and how we can rely on our growing service sector. While GDP expanded 15% in the last decade, real manufacturing output, when measured properly, actually contracted by about 10%. The reality is, we are making less stuff, including some of the high-end goods and components that we need for our national security. We're also losing market share, and a lot more. So here are 5 reasons why we need to stem that decline. 1. Manufacturing is critical for creating jobs and sustaining a middle class. Manufacturing jobs, on average, pay 9% more in wages and benefits than non-manufacturing jobs. 2. That $5.5 trillion trade imbalance that we have racked up over the last 10 years is just as dangerous as the budget deficit. The only way to pay for the HD TVs and all the other goods that we buy from overseas is if our workers have jobs making things that people overseas want to buy. In other words, we need to actually trade, not just borrow money to buy more things from overseas. 3. Manufacturing and innovation go hand in hand. Even though manufacturing accounts for only about 11% of the U.S. economy at this point, manufacturing firms perform about 70% of the R&D. Service firms, in contrast, account for about 80% of our GDP, but they perform only about 30% of the research and development. Now, why does this matter? Because R&D and innovation set the stage for the creation of new products and jobs that we're going to need to bolster and sustain our prosperity. If we lose our creative capacity, we surrender tomorrow to foreign competitors. 4. Manufacturing and services are inseparable. The Washington Consensus holds that since we have a robust service sector, it really isn't that big a deal that manufacturing is ebbing. Not so. You cannot shift manufacturing overseas and expect to retain the R&D, design, engineering, financing, marketing, and maintenance services that accompany the manufacturing. Why do you think GM had to source the advanced battery for its Chevy Volt from a Korean supplier? 5. Manufacturing is vital to national security. Again, the Washington Consensus holds that even though we are no longer making t-shirts, we are still making advanced technology for aeronautics and electronics equipment and the like. The problem is, this is less true every day. Now, it's one thing to make socks or underwear in China. We are relying more and more on China and other countries for advanced batteries, propellant chemicals, and specialty metals and other defense-related components. If this is alarming, good. What do you do when you hear an alarm? You wake up, right? Well, we need to wake up to the fact that it's not normal or inevitable that manufacturing jobs will shift to lower wage countries. After all, Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, and other countries retain strong manufacturing sectors. So can we. We need to wake up to the fact that many countries are willing to bend or break the rules to win the high-stakes game for manufacturing dominance. They rip off intellectual property, they manipulate their currencies, and erect a range of non-tariff barriers to their markets. We've laid this all out in our report, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We can't just cross our fingers and hope that individual companies can win the future. We need to do that as a nation. How do we do it? What does a manufacturing strategy look like? Well, it's as simple as more public and private investment in technology, a trade policy that takes on innovation mercantilism, globally competitive tax policies for our companies, and investments to bolster our talent. That is workforce education, something that we call the 4 T's. Now, ideologues on the right, you needn't fear that we're proposing to abandon market dynamics. If anything, a manufacturing strategy is a sane response to these dynamics. And ideologues on the left, well, you don't need to fear that a manufacturing strategy is policies that is basically corporate welfare. You can't be pro-worker, but against the companies that actually provide the work. So, let's be pragmatic, sensible, and get back in the manufacturing game as a nation.